do everything in the world. We're bulletproof and ready to tackle the world. So I think we can all relate to what our speakers have got today. So our guests, if you'll stand up, Drew Anderson, our speaker, Dr. Anderson, and Keith and Jake, they're all part of the GAP program, and I think you're going to like what you're going to hear. I'm amazed at the type of program that we have, so on with it. Drew Anderson.
Thank you. It's great to be here with y'all. Appreciate y'all having us. Bruce, come on up, guys. Bruce, go ahead and come on up. When I was in 4th grade, I did not want to practice. It was Little League football. And I had a coach, Coach Skip, look at me and say, if you don't practice and sit now, you'll sit the rest of your life. I can see the field, I can smell the grass, I can see my coach looking at me and believing in me. Fast forward many years, reading in Judges chapter 6, Gideon's hiding from the Midianites. He's threshing wheat in the winepress, which is below where he should be at the top of the mountain. Because he knew whenever he threshed that wheat, the Midianites would come and take all his fruit. So he's hiding. He's feeling a sense of panic and anxiety. Anybody ever been there? In that moment, an angel of the Lord comes to him and says, Gideon, man of valor. He says, me? I'm hiding. I'm the least. I'm the smallest. And what Gideon gave him, and I realized this later, which is what my coach gave me so many years ago, was a belief in what God might do in someone in the future. Have you ever had an experience in your life where someone believed in you? You didn't know why. It was just something that you felt they saw something that maybe I kind of see, maybe I hope could be one day. The gift we have with our words is incredible. When I looked at y'all's mission statement, changing the world one child and one community at a time, I thought, how fascinating. In 2019, I sat down with Tommy Nelson, and we were dreaming about what discipleship could look like at our church. And he looked at me and he said, start a GAP program. And I said, the mission is simple. Equip young adults to build a life of true success. That was it. 5 years later, 49 students that we've graduated, 2 were here, Keith and Jake. God continues to reignite that passion, to believe what God might do in the next generation. And so what I've seen over the last 5 years is God do incredible things. Dr. Bruce Anderson has been here from the beginning. He is a leader of our mentors. He oversees and launched what is now the outdoor program and handed it off to a gentleman that oversees it, who's a retired command sergeant major in the Army. And what has happened is that within a simple vision, you've seen people come around these young people and invest their lives in giving them that gift. What might God do in you for the future? And so we have 2 guys here, Jake Allison, Keith Hallman, that'll share their testimony, and then Bruce from his perspective as a volunteer in the ministry, and then maybe a Q&A from y'all later.
I'm Jake Allison. I was part of GAP year 3, which was almost 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
And about 2.5, 3 years ago. Well, first of all, I want to say that I am very honored to be here. I respect Kiwanis a lot. My grandfather has been in it in Athens, Texas, for as long as I can remember. I've been on the guest side of it, I guess, a couple of times. So it's interesting testimony to be here now speaking to you. But GAP is just a great experience. Before GAP, I feel like I was sort of your average high school senior, I guess, at the time, in many ways, in our society. I was lacking community, lacking direction, lacking the motivation and integrity to complete my goals and to even really start them and to create a list of goals. And so I I'm just very thankful that as you go through this program, you learn from Drew, from Bruce, from all the different mentors, and they just pour into you, as Drew was saying, with every, just every resource available to them, they pour into all the students. And I believe that Kiwanis Club and Gap have very similar just values. Y'all want to see students and young people succeed, and to help them to get on track and help them to complete their goals. And I feel as if Gap has the same values as that. So through my year, some of the things I gained was community with my friend Keith here and many other guys who couldn't be here today. I feel like I told you what I was coming into Gap. Leaving Gap, I feel as if I was a whole new person of, striving towards goals. I've gotten a couple different jobs, and I graduated high school after Gap, which is a long story. And so, just the community, the fellowship, the integrity, everything, all the values that Gap has taught me has really helped me after graduating.
My name is Keith. I have a similar story. I feel like I have the similar story that I feel like a lot of younger people, a lot of high school seniors have. We're about to be adults, and you're starting to feel like an adult, but also you don't know what you're doing at all. And your world is starting to open up more and more and more. And so that was kind of where I was before Gap. Of my world is starting to open up, and I'm an adult and I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. And quickly realized that was not the case at all. That I had no idea what I wanted to do, what I was doing at all, what I had been. It was just so much confusion and so much worry about the future and what is life going to look like? Am I going to do everything right? Am I going to be successful? So that was my thought process before going into Gap. And honestly, I didn't want to do Gap, and that's a whole different story. But praise God that I did. And in like the first few days, I saw a massive change in my life of just I don't know what I'm doing. And that is okay. Like I can. This is the time to figure out what I'm doing. And so I learned how to humble myself, and it was the Gap program is so beautiful. It's so you can see so much intentionality behind it. We spend so much time in the Word with our senior pastor Tommy Nelson. We read the Bible, but we don't just read it. We go deep into it. We look past the words and we look towards the history of what this is, and we correlate verses, and we talk about with Drew how to be godly men, how to have godly success, biblical success, and we talk about prayer and leadership, and we talk about how to care for the world that we were given, and then we learn theology of all these different things that we wonder, of different aspects of Christianity. What is man and what is the universe and what is God, and all these different things that we just got to deep dive into. So we got a basic foundation of just Christ, and then we also had so many opportunities to learn from so many different people in our life skills. We would work on our cars, and we would, with Ken Reedy, we did Habitat for Humanity. We learned how to build houses. We learned how to garden. We learned how to, we did, working stuff at farms, and so much stuff that we did in that 9-month period. It was a lot. We trained for a half marathon, which I never thought I could do, but just the intentionality behind that even is like, we're learning that if you work towards something, if you keep going at it, you'll be able to, you can see the result. After the half marathon, I was like, I just did a half marathon. Who would have thought? And then also you just get to build your confidence. There's just so many aspects of Gap, and it's really just a beautiful program, and also just to be able to see the body of Christ and the whole church surround you, surround all of us young people and just pour into us. We had so many resources and we had so many opportunities to learn from different people, in the different career fields, and it's an amazing program. And I still have, I knew Jake maybe 5 minutes before Gap started. We met in the parking lot, and it's felt like we've been, brothers since it's such a, you cultivate such a wonderful community of not just older people, younger people. It's a beautiful program.
My name is Bruce Amison. I'm a retired chiropractor. I've known this lady for a couple of years. When I heard of the GAP program, I sat there thinking, dang, I want to be involved with that. So I cornered Drew one day and said, let's have breakfast, and we had breakfast, and I told him, tell me more. And we talked, and from that day forward, here I am. My primary job is I supervise all the mentors. I have 16 mentors that work with these, well, not these anymore, but work with our young men weekly. They're with them at least once a week. They are on phone calls with them, texts, whatever, and they mentor them through the course of the year. And I work with them to help them to help these young people grow. I also work with them, the class itself, the male students. We have male and female. Male students, I engage with them individually once a week to dig in to see what's going on, how they're doing, to help disciple them, help them go through the difficulties of learning to be a young adult. And it's extremely rewarding. I never thought I would be involved in this type of thing. I was involved in scouting for however many years, 25,
Longer
30.
than that.
Yeah, there was a lot of years. I knew him when he was still a boy. So,
He's a little boy.
well, that's true. But I think that essentially you look back on your life and you see where you've been nurtured and grow into a position for later on. I think that's what's happening. I have a question. How many in here, I'm talking older adults right now, maybe even you youngsters, when you graduate high school or about to graduate high school, how many of you knew exactly what you wanted to do and pursued that? Okay, 3. The vast majority of people, they have an idea, oftentimes, and then, the average in college is to change your major at least once. Okay? Many times it's twice. I changed it once. So oftentimes, you really don't have an idea of what you want to do. And so you just kind of go. So while GAP is not a program to absolutely take all the people who have no idea what they want to do and set them on a path, it certainly can help that. Those of you who knew what you wanted to do, what would a gap year have done to keep you from doing reality? Anything? May have set you down, a year behind maybe what you thought you wanted to on your timeline. But when you look back, would it have changed what you did? No. And that's the thing that a lot of times we have to get across to young people who say, well, I want to go to college. I want to do this. I want to do that. I have this plan that I've got to get on right now. I've got to get on it. Because let's face it, that's what we want to do. We're like Secretariat in the starting gate. pushing against the gate, ready to go, right? Ready to go. When we get out of high school, we're ready to do something. But the reality is there is nothing, unless you are a top athlete, or possibly even, I assume, I'm not a musician, but possibly even a top musician, that taking a gap year wouldn't hurt you, wouldn't take anything away from you. In fact, it would actually enhance what you can do later. So if you look back, I am old and retired, and look back at my career, and I look back and I think, would that have changed anything that I am today? Well, it may have put me on a different path. I may have, through the GAP program, I thought, man, this is cool, I want to do this. Instead of where I went, I doubt it, because I really was charged to do what I did. But that could have happened. But the reality is, when I look back and I think of the 40 years I practiced, what was 1 year out of 40?
So guys, what are the core elements that make up GAP? I mean, I know theology, study, and worship in the Bible is one, but there's several different elements that make up your program. What are they?
Yeah, I'll give you kind of the big picture, and then we can go as detailed any questions you have. Built on 4 principles: Bible, leadership, worldview, and life skills. Those are the 4 legs that make up the stool of GAP, if you will. It's 40 hours a week, 8 to 3:30. It's a variety of different experiences throughout. We follow an ideal week pattern to give the students a sense of the importance of developing habits, developing rhythms into your life that will carry into the rest of your life. It goes for about 9 months. So the last 2 weeks of August and in the beginning of May, there's 5 overnight retreats. For the guys in particular, it's more camp out, get you ready for survival, because the last retreat is a survival retreat where the guys are expected to apply a lot of skills that were trained to them and survive. And it's obviously within parameters. We launched, so this is our 5th year, we launched the girls 2 years or 3 years ago, and so we now have a ladies program that coalesces with the guys, and so we do co-ed events, we do co-ed teaching. We also do segregated teaching for the girls and segregated for the guys. So we found that diversity has created an incredible community to teach men how to respect a woman, to teach a woman how to respect a man, how to relate to each other in a appropriate way, in a godly way, in a friendship way, platonic way. And that's huge, especially when you get into the workforce and you have to relate to other people that are different than you. How to work through conflict, and so we do a lot of conflict resolution as it arises. But the basic principle is equipping young adults to build a life of true success. Those 4 things we do: leadership, Bible, worldview, and then life skills. And so it's very easy. Y'all are getting data from us right now. But if we were to go outside and say, hey, let's work on that tire, and then we would have a conversation, this whole presentation would change. Or if we were to go on a hike at North Lakes or at the Greenbelt, and we just talked about GAP and we talked about life, this whole presentation would change. And so recognizing that we change through different mediums of exchange and through relationships is what we can do in this program. So it's not just data transfer in a classroom, which is there. It's everyday life. It's shoulder to shoulder. It's overnight retreats where you're listening to somebody and they're listening to you. Learning to be reciprocal in communication and listening. So that's the big flyover of what GAP is. It's a church-based ministry. There are other GAP year programs across the country and across the world. In fact, Australia is very big in GAP years. England is very big. It's kind of where the genesis of the GAP year came from. To sow your wild oats and travel is really what a GAP year sort of was birthed out of. We've redeemed that and said let's be more intentional than just travel. We do travel across the state. But so a gap year phenomenon is not really something that is welcomed in the U.S. because we want to get on with our lives. And what Bruce was saying is that it's very important to really tap the brakes, especially as a young kid. You go, well, am I going to make a decision that I'll have to live with the rest of my life? And I want to say to that person, your next step is not your last step. And let us help you make that next step wisely. That's what a gap year does, whether it's with this program or other programs that are out there
So are there fees for the?
There are fees, $3,500 for the program. If you get housed within Denton Bible Church, then it covers room and board. And that covers things like travel, that covers things like tools and equipment that you'll receive as a student, all the curriculum from the books that you'll be receiving. And it's a portion of what the actual program costs from an operational standpoint. So the church subsidizes most of the expense, the primary expense of what it takes to run this program operationally. So we charge a marginal fee of $3,500 to make you, as a student, invest. And whenever you invest, then there's a reciprocal commitment. We're committing to you, you're committing to us. And so, yeah, $3,500.
How many people do you have in it?
We have 21 right now, students. We're interviewing for next year. We have 9 students so far for the guys that have applied. We had a handful of ladies that have applied, I think 3 or 4 that have applied. We offered a preview week last week, and so we offered 3 days for the students to come. If anybody's interested, you can just reach out to me. And I can give you my information, give it to Ken, and we can have you come and do a preview. But what we're trying to do is just communicate that this isn't for everybody. It really isn't. It's for people that are hungry. They want to be there. We shouldn't have to motivate you. You should want to do this. If we're motivating you, don't do it for me, don't do it for your parents, don't do it for your whoever. Do it for you because you feel like you're compelled to do it. Number 2 is that you're teachable. You know a lot, but you don't know everything. We want that person that knows a lot, but not everything. You're willing to say, hey, that's a good point. Great. And then you're willing to discuss your point in a respectful way. And then the 3rd is honor, that you're willing to be a person of honor, that there's something about honor that communicates respect and dignity to the people around. Even if you don't agree with someone, you can honor them. And so those 3 things that we look for.
The 3,500, do you have scholarships for people who can't afford it?
So we would say the scholarship can be procured from the student. Because of the way that our church is set up, we don't have scholarships to offer. But we have had students that have raised their own funds for that. We can help them do that. But yeah, they would procure that financial assistance on their own.
Rudy, so you guys graduated high school and step into the GAP program. Were you guys required to have an occupation or work while you there? Was there no time for
I mean, there wasn't an expectation to work per se. There are some things that the 3,500 does cover a lot of the program, but outside of that, there are still personal things such as gas or other toiletries that will need to be covered by the student. So I worked during my year. I got a job as a delivery driver. I work Monday, Thursday, Saturday, whatever. So there is time to work, but you don't have to necessarily work during the program. It's not an expectation.
So you mentioned 40 hours a week, right?
That's right.
So there's free time.
There is free time, yes, and it's the 40 hours. It's not 8 to 3. In our year, it wasn't 8 to. The hours are different every. Like on the weekends, there's a little bit more time. Yes, there's free time.
Did y'all stay at the church? Live there on the dorm? Because I don't.
Host homes. So we have church members that have offered up their homes, like you would an exchange student.
Okay.
Or an exchange student, and then some would live at home. And we had one guy secured housing at an apartment. So it's really we can only offer, as you can imagine, housing a student for 9 months is a big investment. Not everybody wants to do it. And so we have limited options for them. However, those that do it don't want to stop doing it because they see how much fun it is and how they get to know these students and they love it. But we're still limited on that. Housing would be up to the student, or they would apply for a host home.
Point though, the $3,500 does not go to their room and board. That's the host homes that have volunteered to do this. That's out of their pocket. That's out of their generosity. So they some of these young men. If you have teenagers at home, particularly boys, you realize how much they eat. How much water in the shower they take, and hot water, etc. Leave lights on and whatever, and so the reality is that they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're putting the bill for that student moving forward.
Is there a capacity level that you can't achieve, or?
Like, would there be a limit? We look for 12 and 12 is the ideal scenario. And Bruce is giving me a hard time. I can't turn away a student that wants to be discipled.
Yeah.
If they can find their own housing, so we had 15 guy students this year. We aimed for 12, we got 15. Because I can't say no to someone that wants to be discipled.
I'm glad he did that. I got in very late.
Jake would have been excluded.
Yeah, I would have been out.
And that's what I say. I was like, man, whoever the Lord brings us, we're going to pour our lives into.
So are you guys giving back to the program now?
Yes, sir. I try to give back in different ways. You know, once you go through this program, I just have so much appreciation for Drew and Bruce and for everything, for you and all the other mentors and teachers that we've gone. And I just, I feel obligated to, from everything I've been given by them. And so I've done some things to try to get back, try to get some guys involved. I've been on some camping trips and done a couple things, but so yes, I'm trying to get back.
Jake would never say this, but James 1:27 says, "Pure and undefiled religion is this, that you help orphans and widows in their time of need, and you remain unstained from the world." Jake has been helping a widow and others from the moment even before Gap finished, and God just inspired him to do that. And so different people have different ways of investing. He would never say that, but that's what he's been doing. He's been caring for those that are in need. Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you all for your time. I can be reached at danderson@dentonbible.org. So just danderson@dentonbible.org. Or you can go to the website, dentonbible.org/gap. There's videos that are out there, a lot more detail, the FAQs, give more insight to what we do. But don't hesitate to reach out. If you want to meet, I'm always willing to do that.
Drew, are there any other churches doing this kind of program?
We launched an affiliate up in Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, and theirs is a little bit different, but they are doing gap year up there. So our vision, our hope would be that other churches would embrace this. The reality is it's very challenging with volunteer support. It takes a lot of people to do this, but I think we'll see what happens in the future as to what it could look like in other organizations and churches.
There's none in Texas besides.
Now there are other gap years. So there is K Institute up in Branson, Missouri has one. Vanguard up in Wisconsin through Wheaton College has one. And then Summit Ministries has one in Colorado Springs. So you have other gap year programs that are beginning to pop up because people realize young people are looking for a period of time to reflect and consider what the future might hold. And a gap year is that time.
Is there anything that would exclude a student from being accepted into the program?
Yeah, you're not hungry, you don't want to be here, you're not humble, you're not teachable, and you don't have honor. Brilliance, beauty, none of that matters. Do you want to be here? Are you teachable? And can you be a person of honor? Because we'll work with that person. It takes 9 months for transformation, and that's just the beginning. Yeah.
And it's not just local. We have students from California, from South and North Carolina, from Ohio, from
United Arab
Washington,
Emirates,
United Arab,
Indonesia, Canada, Missouri, Oklahoma, Vermont, Colorado, North Carolina, South Carolina. Yeah, the word's gotten out. People are seeing the importance of it. So yeah.
So what about promotion? How is it that, how does someone hear about you guys other than word of mouth? Are you guys promoting it?
It's word of mouth.
Through
And
schools?
Tommy preaching his sermons. If you listen to Denton Bible sermons, you'll hear about it. And then word of mouth. That's going to be the biggest thing of all. And probably y'all know this too. Word of mouth is how you grow. It's true change. You can blast, like I'm blasting this to y'all, and maybe 2 or 3 will be like, I'm interested. Maybe 1. I understand that. That's just how it goes. But word of mouth is really how you make effective communication. And that comes through changed lives like Jake and Keith to say, hey, you ought to consider this.
God really pulls people into this program. My dad found the program. He was on the Denton Bible website for some conference they were doing, randomly found the Gap page, and about a month later, I was in Denton. So there's so many, and there's every student has a story like that. Very few students are, oh, I heard Tommy talking about it. I was in the, I was in the sermon. Some are like that. There's many students, just random wild stories of how they heard about it and how they're in it. They did it. So God really pulls people